This is our Meals and Moments series that we put out every 2 weeks. This way you get to see which meals I'm making, how I'm rotating ingredients and using it differently to inspire you, and also it's a sneak peek of our lives and our family. So if you're brand new here, welcome. My name is Amy Cross, and this is Across Legacy, where I teach you how to save money on groceries. Our grocery budget is $135 per person, and there are 2 people that officially live here at the house, so our grocery budget is $270 per month. I'm also realizing that we are feeding extra people around 7 to 10 days every month, and we've been able to keep the grocery budget at that $270 mark. This is our Meals and Moments number 10 for 2026. We have done these every 2 weeks starting in January 2025. So if you need inspiration for meals or want to learn more about our story, make sure that you go to the very beginning of this playlist and check it out. This particular video will start at May 15th and go to the end of the month. And the last time I went grocery shopping was just a couple days prior to this on May 11th. That grocery haul is already up on the channel, so make sure that you're checking that out if you want to see what ingredients I'm buying to stay in that grocery budget. Bean recipes seem to be really popular right now, so I've been trying to add at least one into each of these videos. And this one is a sneaky bean recipe that my family didn't even know until I told them after they ate it. I added an entire can of beans and a cup of cottage cheese into some drop biscuits. You couldn't even tell that they were in there. But this added to the protein and the fiber count for the biscuits, so they are so much better for you. We got out of the house and went to a play on this evening that was in our historic downtown, and it was really nice to get out of the house and go do something. My best friend did comment that I seem to get out of the house a little bit more here where it's low-key and everything's calm than I did when we lived on the west side. But we had chimney repair people working on a roof for 3 entire days, and I was kind of over the noise and over being at home, so I was really glad to get out of the house. I made a sesame ginger chicken that I used in my always pan, and I put some extra chicken breasts in there because what I really wanted this for was for the leftovers. But for that night, we had it with some peppers and carrots. And I served this over rice, so it was a really easy meal. And then I chopped up the chicken that was left over to put in the refrigerator because I had plans for it. We got a new Vego Garden that we are excited to start putting together, and it's going to go in the back corner of our yard. And I can't wait to get this filled up with dirt, and then we are going to plant pumpkins and squashes in it. So using those biscuits that I had made, I had decided to try my luck at trying to sneak in some extra protein into the gravy when I made it also. So a couple days later, we had it for biscuits and gravy. And this time I used half-cup portions of already cooked sausage, breakfast sausage with some onions in it. So I was able to just plop those right out of the super cubes and put them into the pan. And then I used some Greek yogurt and another can of beans, and I blended that up until it was smooth. I added the bean and Greek yogurt mixture into the pan, and then I just thinned it out with some milk. So we were able to have biscuits and gravy with a bunch of extra protein in there that nobody knew about. Mike worked on the garden bed most of the afternoon, and I was playing in my flowers. I can't lift anything heavy because of a shoulder elbow issue that I have, so I let him do the heavy lifting, and I played in the flowers and planted some seeds. While we were out playing in the yard, Mike put a tri-tip on the smoker and let that cook, and then at the very end, we just added some zucchini to this. This is my rolling Vego garden. It has lettuce, cabbage, and broccoli in it, and it is growing really well, and the peas are finally starting to come up. I am never going to complain when Mike cooks dinner, but that tri-tip was actually a little bit too pink for me, which is okay. Everybody can like it however they want it, but it worked out really perfectly to slice it into slices and reheat it for steak salads. I use this dressing that we joke that is called Mike's Basic Salad Dressing. It's just a vinaigrette, but I put my immersion blender in it and blended it up so it was a little bit creamy, but it's the same basic recipe that we use. And we were having days in the 90s, so salads were sounding really good. So we ended up having the sesame ginger chicken salad as a meal with that leftover chicken. And I had a little bit of leftover rice that I put in the oven with a little bit of oil and coconut aminos. And it really did sound like snap, crackle, and pop as that rice was getting crispy. For the dressing, I made a sesame ginger dressing, and I also added orange juice to this, fresh squeezed orange juice, and some orange slices into our salad, and it just seemed really fresh and bright. And those crunchy rice were put on top of the salad as a topper. This was a dinner that was in one pot and it was super quick. We ended up having some couscous and sausage for dinner. For this meal, I ended up making it all in one pan. I started with onions and zucchini. Then I sliced up the sausage and added that to the pan. Then I had some couscous that I let brown a little bit in the pan before adding frozen chicken stock. And at the end of the cooking time, I just put in a couple handfuls of spinach and some sun-dried tomatoes. This was just a lunch, but we had sandwiches with cottage cheese and pineapple and some chips. I make sure whenever I get chips that I'm storing them in a glass jar, and that way they are going to stay fresh for about 2 months. So every time I go grocery shopping, I normally get one salty treat, and sometimes they overlap. So we still have some pretzels left over from before, and then we have chips currently. Also with the bread, I normally keep this in the freezer and only pull out about half of a loaf at a time, whatever we can use up in a couple days. And I am diabetic, and I've learned if I freeze my bread or freeze starches, they change the compounds in them and they don't affect my glucose as much. So even though we have done this habit for a really long time because we try to stretch out grocery shopping, it's actually a lot better for me to eat it after it's been frozen. I really believe it's important to have frozen cooked protein in your freezer, and that way you can just pull it out and easily repurpose it really quickly. And this night, I swear I wasn't even in the kitchen 10 minutes. I pulled out that chicken already defrosted, and then I added some peppers and onions to it. I shredded some cheese, and we had chicken fajitas in just a few minutes. This is Memorial Day weekend, and Mike has been planning a scavenger hunt for the family for weeks. He has made all these cute little notes and clues that he had talked to all the businesses and landmarks around town and organized everything, and we were able to do an entire morning of having a scavenger hunt around our town that he had planned. I knew at some point, a couple stops before the very end, he was going to disappear on us and he was going to head back to the house for a surprise. So I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but when he disappeared, I knew to tell the kids that it was okay. I knew at some point, a couple stops before the very end, he was going to disappear on us. So I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but when he disappeared, I knew to tell the kids that it was okay. And when we ended up getting to the last clues and coming into the backyard, he was there with a tux and money prop money. So we hit the jackpot. It was so much fun. And he arranged this whole thing all by himself. We have decided that we had so much fun doing this and checking out some of our favorite spots. So we hang out with the kids, that we want to make this a tradition, maybe not every year, but to make sure that we continue to do it. And yes, Mike does have a tux in his closet. We used to go to fundraising events all of the time at our state capitol. And so it was just a lot cheaper for him to buy a tux one time and then be able to continue to still use it. A while back on one of my grocery hauls, I was talking about how I bought this rack of ribs from Costco, and I divided it into half racks, and then I ended up kind of folding them in half as I froze them. That way they could go into the Instapot. And this really came in handy on Memorial Day weekend because we ended up with more guests for dinner than we were originally planning. So I was able to just grab more of those half racks of ribs and put it into the Instapot, still frozen, and then I was able to season them and then broil them off in the oven at the very end. So we were able to feed everyone with very little notice. I had purchased some Star pasta the last time I went grocery shopping, and I thought this would be so much fun to make some macaroni and cheese out of that. So I ended up adding some beans to the macaroni and cheese and sneaking in some zucchini, and we had a white-based mac and cheese. White onions and zucchini. I just blended it up, and I'm going to add it to this sauce, and I'm trying to keep it as white as possible. I also added a little bit of lemon to this too, and I told the kiddos that this was a summer mac and cheese, so they weren't expecting the same exact one that I make during the holidays. It's funny how just changing the name of something and changing their expectation, they were totally eating beans and zucchini and didn't know it. Now, we didn't really need two pasta dishes, but I wanted to make two different things with the star pasta, mostly so we can use it on Instagram and show inspiration, especially going towards the 4th of July. So I ended up having two pasta dishes that same night. The second one was a fresh veggie pasta salad. With this, we had some fresh pineapple and mangoes, and one of my kiddos had brought over homemade rolls. I took a picture of this just in case it helps anybody else, but at the end of the night, we had a little bit of barbecue sauce left in that jar, and I turned it upside down and put it in our glasses, which are actually pint-sized jars, and put that in the refrigerator. So it is ready to go and somebody can use it up the next time we need to use barbecue sauce. But I wanted to make sure that that would be used up in the refrigerator before we open up anything from the pantry. But whenever we open up something from the pantry, that's when it goes on our shopping list. I like to have a buffer of ingredients for the season that we're in. So normally in the spring and summertime, I like to have around 3 to 5 barbecue sauces on our shelves, and it's the best time of the year to buy them. And then as we go into the fall and winter, we don't use barbecue sauces much. So then I don't mind only having one extra bottle on the shelf. And we pretty much just had leftovers for the rest of the weekend. Now, the goal was to paint this room, our back room, here at the house over Memorial Day weekend after the scavenger hunt. That's what we were supposed to be doing. But in typical fashion of an 80-year-old house, that didn't happen. When we had the inspection done for the house, there were so many clothes in this back closet. We didn't see that there was a water leak at some point back there, and there was some damage. So we had the chimney repaired to make sure that there was no new damage. And then we are dealing with some of this mess in this back closet and making sure that it is getting ready so we could paint. And Mike is a perfectionist, so he wants every single hole exactly perfect and cleaned up and the texture to look exactly right before we can paint. So I had kind of gave him a couple week head start knowing that I wanted to paint on Memorial Day weekend, but we were not expecting what happened. At first, we took down the ceiling light that was in the middle of the room, and it has always kind of glowed, even at night when it hasn't been turned off. And so we thought it was just maybe a cheap light up there. So I had bought a new light fixture that was a smaller size and diameter. So we knew we were gonna have to take that light off, and then we might have to do some texturing or fixing underneath where the light was. What we were not expecting was 80-year-old wires that were the old rubber kind and then wrapped with fabric, and they were crumbling apart. It was really a fire hazard. So we go to remove the light, we see this wire issue, and there's also popcorn ceiling underneath it. So right away, I knew that this was going to be a much larger project than even getting to start to paint. Now, Mike is an engineer and he knows what he's doing, and he was able to rip out some of the walls and replace some of the wires. He was up in the attic, which the only access to our attic is over our very, very steep basement stairs. So he was up in the attic with full coveralls and a respirator, crawling around up there trying to fix the wiring issue, and down in our crawl space, just everywhere. But it was not the weekend that we had planned. This is just another reason why we haven't closed up those walls down in the basement, because we just really don't know what we're going to get ourselves into every time we go to do a project here. So a lot of the wiring had been updated, but not in these bedrooms. But when that room is done, it is going to be a studio room for me. So I can put this very large cart in there and all of the tripods and camera equipment, and I can take beautiful pictures that hopefully we can use someday, maybe in a cookbook, and have it all set up ready to go with perfect lighting in there. So I can easily go and sit down and have microphones and cameras ready with the right lights and be able to film videos like this without having to set everything up in my kitchen and making sure my dishes are done. Because as clean as this part of my kitchen is there are a lot of dishes on the other side of the kitchen that are drying. They are clean, but they're sitting there drying. So with Mike working in the attic and in the crawl space and all the banging that was going on and not doing what we were planning, I was a little overwhelmed. So I decided to do a project of my own so I could be nearby. But I repotted almost all of my plants. I still have a couple large ones that I need to take care of, but I need 2 people to be able to do those. But I repotted over 50 plants here in the house and made sure that the roots were healthy and just moved the sizes of the pots around. I normally only get 1 or 2 new pots every single year, just as we're moving up the sizes. But I have plants that I've had for 25 years now, and most of my plants are either a gift that somebody gave me from their home to give to me, or there are babies and propagations of other plants. And as much as I had really healthy, vibrant spider plants in our old house in Western Washington, they are really struggling here at this house. So I ended up downsizing to 2 spider plants where I used to have like over 10. One of my favorite things to do is to give cuttings when people come over, or if they're admiring my plants. I can just, oh, I'm growing this, here you can have it. And so I think that's so fun. I am always taking cuttings of my pothos so I can make more plants and give them away. On Sunday after church, we ended up going to fill up the truck, and we went to the place that has the cheap gas. This gas is $1.30 cheaper than anywhere else around because it's on the Indian reservation and they don't have to pay the Washington state gas tax, which is $1.30 a gallon. On the way home, we did stop at a flower stand and I ended up getting some red, white, and blue flowers. And we ended up still saving money going to that gas station and picking up the flowers compared to if we would have went to a local gas station. And since we're talking about red, white, and blue and Memorial Day, when we were cleaning out our grandma's house, she was 95 and our grandpa was in World War II. We found some really neat things. And one of the things that we found was a Bicentennial flag that had never been out of the box. And so we had made it a goal to be able to put that in our new house when we moved. So when we found it, it was before we had listed our other house, and we knew we wanted to be able to pull this out and enjoy it over the summertime. But I love that it was put in the box in 1976, and that was the year I was born. And now 50 years later, we have it on the front of our house. It's just a great way for us to honor and remember our grandparents. Mike ended up making hamburgers for dinner out on the Blackstone. If you haven't seen the video yet, he was in a recent video we just put up with him making the hamburger patties. So these were the frozen patties that we were using. We had these with some lettuce and pineapple and onions on them. And we also had a little bit of tater tots that I didn't know that he could actually cook them on the Blackstone. So I was really happy that he was able to take those from frozen and cook them on the Blackstone with the dome lid over the top of it. And they cooked up in about the same time as the hamburgers. And that way we were able to have dinner with no messes in the kitchen. I had bought those tater tots way back in the middle of wintertime when I was making tater tot casserole. And the last time I pulled them out, I made sure to divide the tater tots exactly in half, so we would have enough for 2 dinners. Okay, on the next day, my silver play button arrived. I'm so excited to have my name on this and that we have 100,000 subscribers. This is something that we have worked on for 5 years almost. Our 5-year anniversary is July 3rd since we started the Cross Legacy. So that's going to proudly sit here on my counter next to my book. We might end up moving it up there to the shelf, but I am so excited that we have reached so many families and helped so many people save money on groceries over the last few years. For this next meal, I started out with some onions and zucchini in the pan and also added some carrots. Now, I have been seeing on social media people cooking their rice and adding lentils to it, and I wanted to check it out. I just want to say I highly do not recommend. So even though they cook at the same time, and that was great, they actually turned into kind of a mush. So I just wouldn't recommend it. I much rather have cooked the lentils separately and then been able to add them where they didn't kind of dissolve into the rice. But I have found if I add carrots to a meal, I can add red lentils and Mike doesn't notice as much. So he doesn't complain about the lentils being in there when I add carrots also. So it's kind of a way to sneaky hide some vegetables and lentils into your meal. After those veggies cooked down, I added some shrimp to the pan pan. This had garlic, salt, pepper, some turmeric, and some paprika on it. And then I was adding some fresh squeezed lemon and some grated ginger to it as it was cooking. Right towards the very end of the cooking time, I ended up adding some peppers into that. I wanted them a little bit crunchy, and some of that fresh pineapple that I had sliced. All in all, by the time the rice cooker was done, I had everything done for dinner. So it really only took about 20 minutes to make this meal from scratch. Now I will say I normally plate up our plates here in the kitchen, and then we take our plates into the dining room. But whenever I'm doing rice for Mike, I always make sure he's not paying attention. And I kind of make a well in the middle of the plate, and that's where I put all of the meat and veggies, and the rice just kind of around the sides. If I let him dish up the rice, he would put at least 3 cups of rice on his plate, and he doesn't need that much. At the very end, I also added some purple cabbage to mine. He doesn't really love purple cabbage very much. And then I sprinkled on some hemp hearts at the very end. We ended up having a super stressful day all day as we woke up to having a tornado warning, which we don't normally have tornadoes here in Washington. But ever since we had woken up, we kept getting storm alerts, and the storm that was supposed to be coming through with tornado strength winds starting around 4 o'clock, and we were supposed to have hail the size of golf balls. In this area, we are about 2 weeks out from cherry harvest, and rain, wind, hail, all of that could totally ruin this year's cherry crop. And so everybody was really stressed out about the fields and what was going to happen. And it was just a really stressful day, all day waiting for that storm to happen. I ended up earlier in the day just putting a whole frozen chicken into my Instapot because I knew I could cook it and then keep it on warm until we decided to make dinner. And honestly, by the time we went to go make dinner, it was in the middle of the storm, and we just had chopped fresh veggies with it and some Avocado Ranch dip that I made. And we just ate dinner looking out the windows, watching the lightning and the wind come through. Luckily, it seems like we missed the major storm that they were telling us that we were going to have, and this area survived with just little damage. Oh, I did take a picture of the avocado when I was making the Avocado Ranch with those cut veggies. This avocado is 18 days old when I'm making the Avocado Ranch dip. That recipe we can link in the description so you can find it easily. It is really easy to make, adding those veggies, and it's high protein. I had some more cooked sausage and those super cubes, and I wanted to start using that up. They've been in those super cubes for a couple months now. And so I ended up using those to make our breakfast biscuits, but instead of doing them as drop biscuits, I made it as kind of a sheet pan. That way we just cut that into squares and we're able to serve it depending on how big the person was that was eating it. So if they were little, they were getting smaller squares. During the weekend, Mike was back working in the back room. We're calling it the studio room. What do you think that is?
It might be just tape, and then they just like textured and painted over it.
And he was taking more of the sheetrock off of the walls to access more of the wiring. So I know he will be able to put all the sheetrock back up and it will look perfect after he's done. But we were not expecting this project to be months long instead of just one weekend. When I wasn't needed in the house to make sure that he was safe, I was out working in the flower beds. I planted some zinnias and cosmos out there, and I was cutting all the tops of our daffodils and tulips from the spring. So they finally died back, and then we're getting ready for the next season of flowers. We ended up going to a hot air balloon festival that evening, and I'm not sure if it was a stretching I was doing while we were gardening or sitting on the picnic table bench, but my back was killing me the next day. So I did very little after church on Sunday. As we are wrapping up this month, I made us a quinoa salad. Earlier in the day, I ended up roasting some chickpeas, and I had those on the tray on the stovetop. I will say we probably ate more of those chickpeas just walking by and grabbing them as snacks than what actually ended up on the salad later, but it was all good. I had a little bit of quinoa left in a jar. It was 3/4 of a cup, and it's really surprising as you cook that how it like triples in size. So I was able to use a cup of that cooked quinoa to make the salad with fresh veggies. So we had spinach, carrots, cucumbers, celery, radishes, cherry tomatoes, some some cabbage, all sorts of things that were still fresh and prepped in my jars. And now it has been almost 3 weeks since I went to the grocery store. I made a lemon vinaigrette to go with this. That was really delicious. I mixed a little bit of that dressing up with the quinoa and veggies before I ended up putting that mixture on top of the greens. And then I ended up covering that with a little bit of hemp hearts on top and those roasted chickpeas. And while I was making that salad, Mike made brats on the Blackstone. So we were able to have his barbecue dish that he wanted. And then I made a really great salad that we had with it. So it was really balanced out. But as we were doing this, we were also realizing that we are getting very low on ketchup. So I really do need to make sure that I make ketchup in June. I still have an entire shelf of frozen tomatoes down in our freezer when I normally make ketchup and barbecue sauce, and I just haven't done it yet since we've moved into this house. So ketchup is probably going to be the first canning project that I get to do in this new house. And that's our last 2 weeks of May, where I show you all of these meals I'm making and what's going on here at our house. And it's just a great way for me to be able to connect with you. Now, this is also your chance if you're looking for a recipe or want me to make a recipe about something that I was talking about, that you can request that in the comments and I will add it to my list. But I don't want to make videos that you guys are not interested in. So please tell me the videos that you want to see the most. Make sure to also check out our produce guide. This goes through 75 fruits and vegetables and how I'm able to keep them fresh for weeks. And I keep track of all of the meals that I'm making, the ingredients that I have in my house, and how much I'm spending on groceries in my meal planners. These have 5 different covers and they're available in a bundle deal in the link below. So make sure you're checking out that link in the description. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you learned something new today and got some fresh inspiration. And I hope that you hit that subscribe button.